Using a looper pedal can be really fun as a bass player and a useful tool. But can line 6 help you with that fun? If you're unsure if line 6 has a looper pedal, how to use a looper pedal, and where to place it in your chain, this video is where to help you. I'm Twistie, and in this video we're going to go through the various line 6 looper pedal options you have, where to put them in your signal chain, and if you stay through to the end, I'll show you how to set up a one switch looper pedal on the Helix. Let's have a look. So what is a looper pedal, and should I have one, and why would I use it? A looper pedal is a bit like a recording studio on your pedal board. It allows you to record a riff or a bass line or some form of sound from your instrument and then play that back to you on a loop in real time. You can then overdub or create a second track on top of that loop and then play along to yourself. Most looper pedals allow you to have multiple tracks or multiple overdubs, allowing you to do all sorts of weird and funky stuff. As a bassist, having a looper pedal as part of your arsenal helps you with practice, helps you to enhance your skills during live performances, and can help you unlock creative possibilities. There's 3 things that a looper can help you with when you're practicing. The first one is to help with your timing. Because the looper plays back at the same pace that you were playing it on with, then it forces you, as you're playing over the top of it or along with the loop, to be in time. It can help you with your songwriting and your composition skills. You can record bass lines, chord progressions, and start overlaying them to build them into a composition. Really good if you're out on the road and you don't have a studio with you, you can just start looking at building out structures. It can also help you refine your technique. Recording a section that you're having problems with, you can then play back against that, looking at alternate techniques and easier ways to play it or more precise ways to play it, or come up with completely new ideas on how to play it. This allows you to look at different techniques. You may be playing it as finger picking, and you may then decide to try it, well, what does this sound like if I'm using slap, etc. For live playing, a looper is really helpful if you're a solo performist, either during a bass solo or if you're playing in a cafe by yourself, as it allows you to play along with yourself over structures. Using a looper pedal like Doug Wimbish, then you will start to see the advantage of layering percussive or bass components to a piece of work live. By layering various parts of the bass line that you're trying to portray on top of each other and repeating them and playing over the top of them, you get a really dynamic and live sound. They're really good for inspiration live as well. If you're doing a bass solo and everyone else has walked off stage, you're left by yourself, sometimes playing out the riff or a chordal structure on a loop gives you the flexibility to then start improvising over the top of that. It means you're not stuck just with that and do the bass solo. Loopers are great around creativity as well. If you loop a basic bass line, you can then, as I've said before, play along with that, looking at different styles over the top. You might then start to do some slap or some tapping over the top of it. Speaking of tapping, I've got a video coming out around double tapping or two-handed tapping on bass. Don't forget to check that out when it comes through. You can add soundscapes to your basic sound. As you do loops, you can add and subtract effects pedals from the next layer that you're adding to it. So you might decide to start with a basic bass groove and then add a chorus pedal to play the next layer, or add some delay or some distortion. So again, each layer can have additional effects. You can take effects off them. This helps you with your creativity. They're also great to help you with your call and response technique. You can play harmonies against an existing layer. You can look at octaves. You can see how fifths respond to it. You can look at thirds. All these are the things you can start doing because you've got a repeating backline. Now that I've got a basic understanding of what a looper pedal is and why as a bass player I should have one, the question still remains, does Line 6 have one? Well, the simple answer would be yes, otherwise this would be a really short video. But let's have a look at the different models that Line 6 make that you may or may not have understood had a looper pedal as either its main function or as a supporting function for it. Let's check out the models. As a dedicated pedal, the DL4 Mark II is Line 6's signature delay and looper pedal. It's a 4-button switch. It's on a number of guitarist pedal boards throughout history, and it's a really simple to use pedal. So if you don't want to get into the multi-effects and the amp simulators like the Helix family, then the DL4 is a really good place to start for you. It has a 4-button simple to use looper for play stop, play once, record overdub, and then one for speed, so you can have it play back in half time. Playing back in half time allows you to double the amount of loop time is available for you, and also allows you to play back, obviously, slowly. As well as the classic mode, the DL4 also has the one switch looper, which is consistent with the other models of the Line 6 family we're going to go through. The biggest advantage of using this pedal, especially if you're not using any other modelers, is it will take an SD card to be able to write the loops to the card, which means you can have potentially hours of recorded loops to play along to or include in your catalog. It means also that if you're playing live, even though when you turn the unit off, it doesn't lose the last loop that's recorded, by having it on the SD card, you're guaranteed that it won't get lost. In the modeling world, the Helix family, so the LT, the Floor, the Rack, etc., have a looper block available to be deployed onto the signal path or the preset that you're working on. These models have the option of a 6-switch or a 1-switch looper model. They also have a shuffle looper. For the drummers who might be watching, the clear difference between the 6-switch and the 1-switch looper is the 1-switch looper has one switch to control record, play, stop, etc. Whereas the 6-switch, you got it, has one switch for each of the functions that you want to control. I mentioned the shuffle looper. The shuffle looper is a bit of a mix between a looper and a sampler. Fundamentally, what the shuffle looper does is it records your track or your loop. It then allows you to modify the pitch and the frequency of the playback so it shuffles the sound around. So whilst you're playing a G, it'll still come out as a G. However, the pitch that it's in or the octave that it's in and the time that it's playing back will be adjusted based on the shuffle pattern that the looper decides on. I've not personally used this myself. I'm probably a bit scared to use it. If you look around YouTube, you'll find some guitarists who have used it and demoing it, and for them it looks pretty good. Give it a go, see what you think. Let me know in the comments if you think it's a good thing. I'll stay on a watching brief. For the smaller units, so the HX Stomp, the HX Stomp XL, and even the new HX1, they all contain the same looper function that you get in the bigger brothers. Now, because of the switch layouts on the various models, obviously from 2 switches to 3 switches to 8 switches, I think it is, on the XL, there are limits to the number of buttons you can press. Therefore, if you've got 6 switches, then the 6-switch option is a little bit of a stretch. Now, it can be done, and I'll talk to you about that a little bit later. So fundamentally though, the same single switch looper pedal that's on the Floor and the LT is available on the HX Stomp, the HX Stomp XL, and the HX1. Same functional control, and at the end of the video I'll go through how to set up the 1-switch looper. I'm going to use the LT, but it's exactly the same configurations for the other devices. So even though those units have the smaller number of switches, they can be expanded. So on the Helix you can expand to an additional 2 foot switches. So that gives you a potential of 5 switches. And using Command Center, you can allocate functions to each of those switches to align with your looper requirements. And that's the same with the others. Alternatively, you could use a MIDI pedal, and then all of the controls are available through the MIDI pedal. So if you've got a 6-switch MIDI pedal controller, then you can control 6 switches. If you are looking for, again, a non-amp modeling option, then the HX Effects also includes the same looper as the others. It does have 6-foot switches, and therefore you can get the 6-foot switch looper, say that fast twice, the single foot switch looper, and the shuffle looper on the HX Effects. Now we know that there are a number of models, in fact pretty well all of the hardware modeling and effects units that Line 6 make include a looper function. Where do you put the looper in your chain or on the signal path? If you've been watching my video channel for a while, you'll see that I've also presented a video on placing effects on a signal chain or building a signal chain out. The link to that will be up here. Please have a look at that. That will give you a better idea of fundamentally which effects go in which order or recommended order as a starting place. But for this video, where do we put the looper pedal? So you can place the looper pedal in anywhere along the signal path you like, really, and that's the magic of the Line 6 Helix options. Clearly with the DL4 or a TC Electronic Ditto or any of the other looper models on the market, you can physically cable them anywhere in your path, but the value of having the HX or the Helix family is that you can virtually place them anywhere you like. If you are using the looper pedal for setting up a preset, placing the looper pedal at the beginning of the chain, recording a bass line, and then playing that back, as you then start to add other Helix effects and amp and cab blocks, you can start using that. So rather than playing and trying to do it all with one hand and listening, and you can basically play that, use it as a recording device, record that track, and then play with all the effects adjustments, the amp adjustments, what does this cab sound like compared to that cab, etc., etc. So putting it at the beginning is really helpful for when you're setting up presets. Now for live use, the optimal place to put the looper is right at the end of the chain. Now we put it at the end of the chain because it's going to record anything that's turned on in the signal path before it. So if you think about that, if you are playing your standard dry-ish bass signal and you're doing a big bass riff, but then you want to add some overlay to that with some octaves with a bit of chorus on it, then you can turn on your chorus and overdub what you're playing with the chorus effect turned on. If you then want to do a third layer, and let's say you want to have some delay on that, then you can turn off the chorus, turn on the delay, and then record the delayed path over the top. So now you have 3 loops running at the same time with effectively 3 channels or tracks of bass on it, which are going to be your dry signal, your normal signal, with some, what did I say next? Chorus, and then some delay. So if you had placed the looper at the beginning, the only thing you would ever pick up would be the first thing in the chain, which is itself, which is effectively your raw guitar tone. So place it towards the end. Do you already have a looper pedal? If so, which one are you using? Are you using a Line 6 one? Are you using the one from the Helix? And where are you finding it's best to place? Beginning, middle, end? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you haven't bought it yet, check out my book available on Amazon, link below, on ditching the amps and digging in on the Helix. In this I go through a number of the effects pedals, their type, what they can be used for, and also I cover off the signal chain. So please check that out. So let's check out setting up a 1-switch looper pedal. I'm going to do this on the LT. Again, you can play along with your HX, Stomp, Floor, etc. If you want to have a go at the 6-switch, you can do that as well. But I'm just going to go through the simple 1-switch because that's the one I use. Let's go and check that out. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to go down to the bottom, the mono 1-switch looper. You can do stereo. For this example, I'm just going to use the mono, but again, if you want a full stereo signal end to end, then you'd place a stereo looper at the back. We've got playback and overdub and low cut and high cut. I'm going to set the playback for -2 dB. That means that as it's playing back, it will be in the background of what I'm playing over the top of that. This is like setting the mix in your recording studio. Again, you can play with that volume and see which works best for you. For me, -2 seems to be about right. The overdub level is what you set for every time the overdub repeats, it repeats at 10% lower. I don't personally change that at all. I'm also not doing 60 overdubs, so to me, I haven't had to change that. And the low cut and high cut frequency is allowing you to sort of provide a little bit more mixing, like an EQ around the playback, so that it starts to fit better in your mix. I don't play with that too much, but this is no different to putting an EQ on a mixing desk when you're trying to mix the channels together. You'll get a bit of more glue behind it. The next thing we need to do is add or allocate a foot switch to that. So here we're going to add the first one. Touch it, say OK. So now I have pedal 8 assigned to the looper. When I press the looper for the first time, it'll go into record mode. I'll then record a piece, which is effectively my backing track. When I then press the button again, it will go from red to green, which means it will be in playback mode. And I can then play along to it if I like. Pressing it again for the third time means it will go into overdub mode. It'll go to orange, and anything I play then will also be recorded to go over the top. Let's give this a go and see how well I plan out. So I'm now in red mode. Now I should hear it play back. Now I'm in overdub. Now playing back, you should hear both. No hands. So I've held that down while it's playing back. That means it's cleared the last overdub. I didn't like it, so I'm playing, because I didn't like it, now I get to play it over again. Much better. Same. To stop it, you need to double press. Now I'm playing with this with my thumb. It's a bit dicky. It does work much better when you're using your feet, so I do apologize for that. So you can now see that it's got a bright white light on it. So that means that anytime I now press that button again, it will go into play mode and play back the loop that I've just recorded. However, multiple overdubs I've put onto that. Turning the unit off doesn't lose the loop. It's recorded there for posterity. So the next time I play it, it'll have that same loop. To clear that out, I'm going to hold that button down, and that should then go from bright white to dull white, wiping the cache. There we go. How easy was that? So if you try that out and you find that the one switch looper pedal is a bit complex, sometimes I find it hard to stop it. It just keeps wanting to keep going, as you probably noticed in the video. So if you find that, then obviously try the 6-foot switch, looper option, or a version of that. As I mentioned before, you can use the control center to allocate a foot switch to the looper command that you want it to do, and that will help you. So if you've got 3 switches in a Stomp, you can allocate a play, a stop, and an undo if you like, for example, or add more expression switches like the pedalnetics that I use, which I've seen in other videos, or the loopy pedal, which I used when I was doing the dive bombing video. Check that one out for me. Probably the biggest benefit of using more than one switch to control the looper is the ability to do the speed control. You can have it play at full speed on the foot switch, you can then go half speed, or you can also run it backwards, so you can have the loop run backwards. Weird, but good, I guess. So again, the looper pedal gives you a lot of opportunity for getting out of your head and doing some radical stuff that you would not normally do just with 4 strings. Yeah, I know some of you use 5. If you're looking for some more information, Scott Uhl, guitar player, his link is up here. He does a range of things on how to set up the HX Stomp as a looper. He does some great videos. Not quite as good as mine, but he does some great videos. Check his out. They're really, really good. I'm joking. He also shows how to use multiple pedals and set it up. If you want me to show you how to do that, please leave comments below, and I'm more than happy to do that, another video on that as well. As with everything Helix and modeling, play around with it. Play around with the place of the looper. Play around with which effects you can turn on and off on the overdubs. Let me know in the comments how you're finding it and give some recommendations. I really don't use the looper that often. I don't do many bass solos, for example, but I do use it to help set up my presets. So let me know how you use it. So have I convinced you to include a looper pedal as part of your setup? Hopefully so. Specifically, have I answered the question, does line 6 have a looper pedal? Absolutely, they've got at least one. Probably more than one, don't you say? Don't forget to like the video if you've liked it, and leave some comments whether you liked it or didn't like it, and some feedback. There's also links in the description below to the equipment I'm using. Not necessarily this Yamaha BX Billy Sheehan. You can't buy these anymore. If you're lucky, you can get them on eBay like I did, but everything else I use, both live and in the studio, there's a link to it. There are some affiliate links if you would like to use those with Amazon. Also, check out our website for our merch page. Get yourself a t-shirt, maybe a baseball cap, and otherwise, check in for the next video. Catch ya.